And I'm
Well, that
here.
ended perfectly.
Did it? I wasn't listening to
Yeah.
the actual stream. So, what episode is this? 19. Excellent. That's one of the things that I wanted to start in the audio is actually saying the date and the episode number, the show number. So this is 2020-09-16, episode 19. One of the weird reasons I wanted to start saying things like that is because sometimes things can be detached between like the thumbnail and the title and stuff like that and the actual audio itself. I had an issue the other day when going through like I have a backlog of shows to edit, and I'll get to that. But I because I've got a backlog, some files had were shuffled around, and I mentioned this last show. And one of the annoyances was I wasn't sure what the episode number and date of one of the shows was. I'm like, okay, well, I have this missing gap. It might be there, but I wonder if I have duplicate audio. And for some, like, and it was just very confusing. And I had no sign for any of the folders that I had as to what their content was supposed to be. I was just kind of assuming things were lined up correctly. So I had to go and listen to, I think, four different folders. They all had names, but one was a question mark. So one or two could have been swapped around. And I want it to be, I want it to be correct. And so I have to listen to chunks of the audio manually just to see if, well, maybe one I processed and uh, it's been chopped a little bit. So the length is going to be different. Maybe that's why they're different. Maybe. So I had to kind of hunt around. It was rather annoying. So actually identifying like I don't know what's the term. It's like watermarking, but you watermark inside of an actual audio file to give it some information. Anyhow, so that's something to, I guess, improve. Maybe I'll write that in the checklist right now. Okay, and I'll just edit out my clickety clacking after the fact. So I'll get right to it. So last show, I had been talking about my mood, and I had been talking about pasta and bacon and all this kind of stuff. It's been a running theme, and it's just because it's so weird and it's on my mind, and stuff that I'm engaged with is stuff that I can easily reach for to talk about. It's interesting for me at least, and it right after explaining all of that is when I got disturbed and got to experience that irritable effect. So I'm not entirely sure how to go about apologizing to the people I was mad at, because it's still their fault. So I made my little kindly be quiet and don't do laundry right now sign with a red border. Maybe they'll see. The only thing I can think of is that the sign that I wrote wasn't seen. Just like I can't comprehend how that's even possible. Like a handwritten note stands out. So what? So, but this is the source of arguments is each party makes dumb assumptions about the other. And so I'm going to guess that they were dumb and don't have any field of view and somehow missed seeing a handwritten note. And that's the only thing I can think of. And so they were playing pretend like this note should have been there permanently for the last however many days. But I overturn it like beginning of the day and make sure that it can be seen during the day. And I specifically chose not to plant my laundry there as a way of reserving the space. And I mean, my intuition was correct. I should have just put a basket of laundry there because that's the biggest obvious landmine. That is okay as a way to reserve a laundry room, but leaving a note apparently isn't. So, yeah, I'm right. And but this is a grand example of the kind of fumbling idiocy that happens when I mean, you're not loud about everything all the time. So one of the things I do want to do is get, I actually looked at this. So my ever expanding Amazon wish lists. And I'm so happy that I can have more than one. And apparently I have no limit because I've got, I don't know, a dozen different lists. On my ever expanding list, I added signs. So I can have like recording signs. And the one that I'm thinking of is there's some like, you know how in hotels, at least in Hollywood hotels, you got the little door hanging signs. There are some that are already made as recording signs, which was hilarious to see. And it must be fairly inexpensive to print this stuff. But of course, they're charging like $20. So that's 20 Canadian. So I don't know what that is in freedom dollars. And so I might get a couple of those. And surprisingly, there are LED lit signs that are about the same price. The problem is, where are you going to hang something like that? And it's a little bit obvious. So I might do something like hang it over the front door so that people aren't slamming the front door, and put something in the laundry room and something like that that's a little bit nicer and professional. But while I was at it, I'm like, okay, well, now that I'm thinking in terms of signs, and it's just like I had mentioned some time ago, when if you're moving in or you're moving out, never have your hands empty when you're moving from room to room. It's a great way just to clean your space. Like, you're going upstairs anyway, you're going downstairs, have some dirty dishes in your hands, you're swinging past somewhere, just shuffle something from an incorrect room to a room where its home is somewhere in that room. So you kind of move things around. And that way, when you actually go and you're in a particular room, like you're nesting in a particular room for whatever other reason, all the stuff that belongs in that room is at least there, so that when you're doing breaks, even those couple of minutes or whatever, when you're kind of faded and you need to kind of change gears, you need to sharpen the saw, whatever, but it's one of the really short ones where your mind just wanders. You can actually just reach around your immediate room and move things even closer towards where they're supposed to be. It makes your life really easy, because normally when people think about cleaning, or let's just call it tidying, because I separate the two. So normally when you think about tidying, you identify a room that you want to be quote unquote tidy, and you would go into it and you would take all the stuff that doesn't belong there and you push it someplace out into another room, or maybe a hallway or something. And great, now your mess kind of follows you around the house. And then you have to wander throughout your house trying to figure out like what stuff doesn't belong in what room. But if everything was already in that room and there was nothing else in that room that didn't belong, all you'd have to do is you could enter into that room, close the door, and that's where everything is. And you can just putter about in this with a short leash, instead of wandering around your entire house like you're migrating. So that makes life quite a lot easier. There's an equivalent when you're, let's say, shopping, because window shopping has turned into kind of like online browsing. And one of the successes of any good store, but I think Amazon is really the one that pushed this very successfully very early on. It set the bar, is the idea of recommendations. And this is very much like if you're walking the wiki is the term. If you're going through Wikipedia, you click from link to link to link, and suddenly it's 2 a.m. and you're learning about the history of voles or something really odd. And it's interesting, right? It's interesting. Your brain is getting fed, and well, obviously it's you don't want to make a habit of that, but let's imagine that it's a Friday that you stayed up through into Saturday 2 a.m. Well, if you had no other plans, if your Saturday's not ruined, it's interesting. And there's an equivalent for window shopping now, where you would go through recommendations. And I do that I research ideas. So I was researching signs. I'm trying to think of the language of the topic. Oh, well, what other things? And I could sit there and meditate on the topic and maybe take notes, pen and paper, kind of as a way to figure stuff out. That is old school and rather ineffective, at least for me. but I could imagine doing that. My equivalent is poking around until I'm reminded of the right words, because I don't have the right words right away for all things all the time. Sometimes I have to like circumnavigate the entire topic before I can remember how to remember the phrasing and stuff. So I could think of, well, like I literally, the first thing I typed in is like, the thing about the internet is you can be really blunt, and because there's so much variety, so much population now, you'll probably get results. As long as you're not like looking up information that is tied to social things, you're probably going to get something. If it's a product you're looking for, you're probably going to get it. If it sounds like it's something other people would use, it doesn't have to be a big market. If it sounds like something that could be made, it's probably already made. And there's a lot of circumstances where you can get it made. And I'll get to that. So I actually typed in Amazon search, recording sign. And I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I actually got little signs that say recording, and then I got LED signs, and then I got, you start getting dumb, expensive things. But okay, well, and I started drifting. Well, signs. I've got a post-it note on a door if I'm expecting a delivery to ask people to knock. Like, in case I'm not sitting on my step and I'm expecting some delivery, because we all get stuff delivered from Amazon these days if we don't want to go out to the mall or whatever, thanks to the times. And so I'm thinking, well, hey, what can I get like a no solicitation sign? That's got to be really common, right? And I'm looking through the signs and and they're really rude, and a lot of them are sarcastic. And that might be me in person when I know other people. That's not going to be me writing it on a sign for everybody who drops by to see how much of an insufferable ass I am. I don't want that for strangers. So, but I do need to convey certain things. And yet, so I have to be polite. I don't need the long, it's like the list of stuff, like no sales, and it just goes down the list of stuff. And like, I don't need a bullet pointed list, and I don't need a dumb font, both of which are big problems for me. And I found it's a no solicitation, a little heart, thank you. Like that conveys everything I want. That's reasonable and polite. There are even some that you can stake into your lawn, for example, so that people don't walk up to your door, don't quite notice things. And this is why sometimes signs, like I actually had somebody knock on my door, and they were leaving. I'm like, that was confusing because I opened the door. I'm like, hi? And they had to turn around and explain that they didn't read the sign, because it's just a handwritten note, right? It's off to one side, perfectly reasonable. This is somebody that's kind of on autopilot, knocking on doors. Now, it would have saved us both some time if that person was told right up at the front walkway kind of thing, your driveway or wherever leads to your front door, your side door, wherever you are. If there was a sign right there, person wouldn't have to turn up onto your property to find out at your front door that there's a polite little sign. Because I don't want to have, like, you can get vinyl stickers that go right on your door. And I'm thinking, well, that's something I would do if I was my, like, 19-year-old self. I'd just plaster it on my door, like one of these go away things. And it's a little, I don't want to say unprofessional. How would we describe it in our regular life? It's somehow, we have the capacity to be regal now, if we really choose to kind of rein it in and be just so. If we align things up the right way, we can, just like you can have good posture, you can dress well, you can be polite, you can be calm, and all these, you can actually control these things and have a wheeled presence. And so you don't need to have the conspiracy board of signs all on your front door saying all this stuff. Things could be nice and polite and simple. And so I actually did find a really, see, I guess my style is very different. It did take me a while, but I did find a really nice, polite, kind of like wood and brass thing. Now, of course, I have nothing, I'm not going to permanently affix it to my front door. So I kind of want it to one side. I'm thinking, well, now leftover knowledge from other things. Like I wanted to hang a mirror, but I'm sick and tired of punching holes in my wall. So I went looking and I found double-sided tape. And I know about double-sided tape because I accidentally bumped into it and I was just looking through the aisles of one of these little hardware stores. I'm like, I didn't know you could, like, I wouldn't think you could trust a mirror to be hung by tape. Like, I'm old, right? So I didn't fully grasp the idea. So there was a time when that was a new thing to me. And it's one of those, oh, well, of course it's possible, like science and stuff. And of course there's more than that because there's weight limits and it should be padded because your wall isn't necessarily flat, etc., etc. But I had recently looked into that because I want to put up another mirror because my previous one kind of fell down because reasons. I'm really glad it didn't break. But so I want to put something nice in now that I'm in that mood. When I moved this one time and I just left I had a really nice mirror and had it hung for me, and I didn't actually take it with me when I moved. It belonged where it was put. It was very nice, and it's just been a theme for me to have like a mirror in a certain place, and I miss that, so I want a mirror. But the double-sided tape thing, I'm thinking, well, I know about hanging it indoors. I know there's indoor-outdoor double-sided tape. I'm thinking, well, maybe I can use that to pseudo-temporarily affix like a no solicitation sign. Okay, well, that's good. But, there's two things that I want to convey. The first is no solicitation. And although that's kind of a simple idea, we had somebody come by and be like, well, I'm not soliciting. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but I'm just looking for a donation for the hospital kind of thing. Like, okay, well, that is exactly what you're soliciting for. And so there's always going to be the odd, I'm an exception. I'm selling Girl Scout cookies and stuff like that. And there are no solicitation signs that say no solicitation unless you're selling Thin Mints. It's like, okay, that's cute. That's cute. But it's saying too much. I don't want to have too many words. But I'm going to have to occasionally have these awkward conversations where it's like, no, you are actually soliciting, by the way. And, thank you, no thank you. And I will be educating people that drop by. And I guess the other thing is, I want to have things simple. So there's really no way for me to also ask, please don't leave flyers. I really don't like the idea of people like, some people, you've got a front doormat and you'll get junk mail stuffed under there. You'll get it jammed between your doorknob and your frame or hung off your doorknob and stuff like this. I hate that. I almost never respond well to any kind of advertising under any circumstance. I will use ad blocks simply because I don't want brands to tarnish their reputation to me. Because if a brand shoves itself in my face, however quote unquote subtle it might be, it's probably going to be something I'm going to avoid. I'm resistant to that way. So I mean, I have to have this balance of minimalism on a sign. But like I said, there was two things I wanted to convey, not just no solicitation, but deliveries, because I want deliveries to actually drop packages off in a specific place and to actually knock. And one of the problems is I really can't stand when, well, you'll get different delivery people depending on where you live or depending on what service and stuff. And if it's consistent, you can train that person to interact in certain ways. You have a regular, and the regular knows to knock. Well, you're not going to have that if you have a lot of deliveries from a lot of different places. Like for a while, Amazon was like using Ubers or something weird like that, where they'll have like a random driver. So I have people that tell me about these things where sometimes it's UPS and sometimes it's Purolator, sometimes it's regular post, and it's like a mysterious driver on a Sunday coming by and dropping something off. And half of them won't knock. And half of them will like put the package in a weird place. Like I had a package around the side of the house where there's a garage door out in that direction. They're like, this looks like a house door. I'll put it out here. It's got like junk in the way. And I just happened to be walking around that side of the house when I noticed these packages that are there. Oh, well, yeah. So I'm also thinking about having a deliveries please knock sign, which apparently is also a thing. And custom signs are a thing, kinda. They're not really very good. It's one of those things where in old times I'd just have somebody carve something out of wood and it would look really quite good compared to all these other things. It would present well. And so I might have mismatched signs, which kind of bothers me. I don't know. And while I'm at it, I looked up house numbers, and I just get lost. Like, what things do I hang on the front area of my house? Because I've got letters that are out there, but they're kind of hanging askew, and the paint is peeling off the metal numbers, and it's just like, well, do I want to have the street name on there? I found a place that does custom signs. So I'm like, it's actually quite inexpensive. I'm thinking, well, I don't want it affixed to siding because I don't want to try to screw things into siding. It just seems like a bad idea. So weatherproof double-sided outdoor tape. Awesome. And then I'm thinking, well, cost after cost after cost, just because I'm curious about that. So yeah, that was my rambly train of thought. I do want to wrap up the mood thing. Apparently, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's pasta. I don't know what's going on, but I have confirmed that pasta as meals absolutely wrecks things. I didn't have any like bacon, throw bacon with grease in pasta, which I have in the past. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's a time of day thing. Maybe it's whatever. But it's not a carb thing, I don't think. So it could be like long-term internal, I'll call it damage of some sort that would change things. So I have to change my diet. So, well, that's an interesting thing to learn about. So who knows? And what was also interesting is, I mean, these being the times, I had to pay really close attention to like, for a while we had households, like I knew people where the household was really getting paranoid and everybody was buying thermometers and stuff like that. It sucks because I took a couple of passes at trying to buy a thermometer, like I think it was 2018 or something like that, and they just wouldn't arrive. And like, oh, so I'd order again, contact the seller, all this kind of stuff, and it wouldn't arrive. I'm like, oh, okay, wait a second. And I went and looked up the actual the Canadian import regulations. And I looked and like, oh, right, mercury. We're not allowed to import mercury, which is really annoying because I think mercury is pretty. And I just want to have a mercury thermometer because it's authentic, and the perception of it being old-timey and having this comfort to it, things like that. So I just want to have that in a toolkit. It's not like that's going to wear out or anything like that. So I ordered more than once, and I think I lost some money ordering thermometers. They're actually cheap. And so I know households that were paranoid about that, and I got a baby thermometer, but at least it works. And the mood thing seems to be associated with a body temperature thing, because I've noticed throughout my childhood, well, let's call it youth, right? So late teens and early adulthood, that I would sweat when I'm stressed. And I had a damp back of all things. If I get hot, I don't sweat out my back. I sweat out my armpits. And it was weird because I had that kind of sheen on me. And showering twice a day gets rid of that kind of thing, right? So, but I had a foul mood and all this kind of stuff. So I attributed it to like my malaise, not showering as much as I ought to. And that's why I was kind of like, I associated the kind of back sweat and slight temperature to just being in a funk. You put off showering in the morning for showering in the evening, and so you're going to be muggy during the day. And that's what I thought it was, but I took my temperature again because the times we're thinking about these things. So I took my temperature. I'm like, oh, I've got for metric. So the body temperature, our government recognizes 37 Celsius as being as starting the range for fever, and I was 37. So I'm like, oh, am I going to die? It's what everybody starts thinking now. But no, if it solved itself like right away, next morning, tested myself, went and cleaned my room, and actually it was a good workout because I was lifting my bed up on stilts. And I don't know if I've talked about that. I think I must have. Ooh, I can control F. Hang on. I don't think I've talked about that. Ooh, I really should. I haven't. Oh, that's going to be an interesting one. Okay, so and that gave me a bit of a fever, but that's expected. So I'm fine, right? So I stopped eating the pasta. I switched to my regular stuff, and I seem to be doing reasonably well, although it's probably going to take me another couple of days. I was thinking of canceling this show because I wasn't sure where my mood would go and if my mind would work properly, because the healthy wandering mind that I have had with the previous shows, I wasn't sure if I could reproduce it. And the previous show, did we end our previous show early? I kind of remember we did, but I can't remember. So memory goes as well, which kind of sucks. But I still might want to call this one early just so that I didn't even eat this morning. I just kind of drank Diet Pepsi and stuff like that. This episode is not brought to you by Diet Pepsi. So, yeah, let me talk about this belt thing. Okay. No, not belt. Why did I say belt? Bed. Wow, I just typed phonetically. Okay, so I've got a bedroom, and wow, where does the story go? Okay, so back when I was young, what I would do with my money is, because when we're young, we don't quite prioritize money very well. So I spent it on entertainment. And this was early internet days, so we didn't have we had piracy for movies, but we didn't have hard drive space. So it kind of wasn't a thing, because you'd have to spend the money on the hard drives, and you may as well spend the money on the DVDs, because then you get all the special features. I went way out of my way. It was it was a major Christmas thing for me, where I would go and I would make sure that I would get the widescreen edition. Full screen was actually still a thing back then, and I would get special editions whenever I could. And I was careful about curating what DVDs I got. So, I mean, I brought that legacy with me from place to place, and I have actually watched my movies multiple times, and I do feel like the money was well spent. But I've got these bins full of DVDs, and I wasn't sure what to do with them after all these years. And I know a couple of them are slightly bad. There's one place where they hiccuped. And so I want to rip them out and put them on hard drives. Okay, now, because some people don't understand. So under Canadian law, we actually had an agreement arranged with I know it's the RIAA. So for music, at the very least, they get a cut. So we sell blank media in Canada, there's kind of a tax on top of it. That tax gets sent off as protection money to this legal organization. Like, not a penny goes to the actual artists, but we're actually given permission, if we own the thing, to copy it ourselves, to make a backup. And I know that's not a thing in the United States. I think it still is a thing in Canada. And I don't know if it applies to DVDs, but I don't care, because my DVDs are starting to fail. I want to make them as backups myself. I want to continue to own the things I paid for forever. There's some restrictions for actually quote unquote owning these things, which is, there's copyright, so I can't pretend like it's mine. I can't share it. I can't broadcast it publicly, for example. Now, nobody's going to complain if I have some friends over and I put a movie on. Theoretically speaking, that's broadcasting, but there's probably a number of people, so I can't put it on a projector outside or something like that, if I want it to be legal about it. Now, honestly, all these DVDs are low quality compared to the Blu-rays they're being replaced with, or online streaming, or whatever the heck is a possibility now. So they're kind of there for the special edition features, and that's not just like behind the scenes footage, and some of them have pictures that you can scroll through. That's adorable, man. Again, pre-internet stuff. Some of them are actually combined, like they're computer readable and they're regular DVD readable. So you can actually plug them in and get like the Windows 3.1 screensavers or whatever the heck. And that's collectible. But they've also got multiple audio tracks. And it's even valuable for me to have subtitles in different languages, or subtitles for English hearing impaired and stuff like that. But listening to, like, I've got so more contemporary stuff. So the Lord of the Rings series, the original stuff, not the Hobbit stuff, but the regular Lord of the Rings. I bought it. I bought the super extra special extended editions. I actually want to go get the originals, but I think these DVDs also have, they have multiple, like, director's commentary tracks. Like, there's an actor's commentary and a director's commentary, I think. So it's like the totality of those discs, plus the extra, like, separate discs in all these different boxes. It's not even counting the extra discs of stuff, just the alternate audio tracks. Is 33 hours of video to watch. And I've got a pile of DVDs like that. Okay, so they're in bins. So they're taking up space. And they've been there for a long time. And it costs money to buy a new hard drive. And I need to get better software for doing the ripping, because I don't quite like what I've got. And that costs money. And so what I decided to do is I decided to look up what it would take to take my bed and pull it up. And the manly man thing to do is just get 4 cinder blocks for each of the posts in a bed. And some of the larger beds will have a one in the middle, but some are really weirdly designed. So whatever, you would figure out how to lift stuff up. But I wanted to be a mature adult about it. I just didn't have access to cinder blocks. That I didn't want to damage the carpet and all this kind of stuff. So I went on my little walkabout through Amazon. You're bored at whatever o'clock in the morning, or in my case, doing audio processing. There's like, you set stuff up and then you press go and it walks through an audio track and it does certain stuff. And then I have to go back and I have to do, so I've got a checklist of like 8 different things, and it's like in 5 minutes and I tab out to something else. So I shop in between these processing times. And I went looking for, like, well, there are these things specific for raising furniture, but they're like 3 inches and it's wood. And some people are saying, well, these plastic ones, they don't work. This one cracked, and there's product after product, and they're all suspicious nonsense. I want something that's solid. And I kept looking, and I did end up ordering something, although I don't regret it. What I have works, but I'm finding other things, like you can get like this industrial pipe stuff that's meant for shelving. And it's like rated at 700 pounds and stuff like that. Obviously, you're going to be screwing that into a stud. And even then, I'm not really sure how much weight you can put on a stud. I don't trust that kind of stuff. And you'd have to figure out how to turn it into like a little platform and, okay, well, little stilts for your bed, this kind of stuff. Because I didn't want 3 inches. I wanted minimum, I think minimum 6.5, but 7 to 8 inches is what I wanted. So what I actually ended up finding, of all things, is I found these. They're called Save-A-Step, and I don't feel bad about talking about them, although I do want to get another 5 just in case for like if I change beds. The maximum number of legs on a bed until you get into, there's like some bed frames where they actually have an iron bar going all the way around the bottom, and they have pegs pulling it up, so they don't have individual posts going to the floor. They actually have like a rectangle, and it's based off of that rectangle, or rectangle with a couple of crossbars and stuff like that. So other than that bed, the most number of posts a bed would have would have 4 in the corners, and then for every one of the edges it would have an extra one, and then for the middle it would have another one. So it would have 4, and then another 4, and then one in the middle, 9. And so I'm thinking, well, maybe I should just get 9 of these and be done with it. Like 9 and for life, and I'm done. And if I move, if I buy a new bed, whatever, then I'll have enough. I'll have enough for that. And so what I did is I got these. What they are so for an RV, you've got the body of the RV, and it's got a doorway. It's like a side door, and you swing down a set of steps. And so they're like 2 steps, and it's a little bit awkward because depending on how you park and what the landscape is like, etc., it's dangling in midair. And it's fine technology and all this kind of stuff, but it's a fragile piece of tech, and you have people that are heavier or bouncier than others, and that thing can break. Okay? It can break, and it probably will after enough time. So what you could do is you could put down a step ladder, but those are awkward. But there's these things called Save-A-Steps, and what they are is it is kind of like there's a flat square on the bottom and a flat square on the top, and in between is a post. But it's a solid shaft with a threaded screw, and the two square ends can be turned to extend to unwind this screw, this threading, to make it one tall post, or screw it back in to make it a short post, so it's adjustable between 8 and 12 inches. And hey, 8 and 12 inches, that's exact. I wanted 8. 8 is the minimum. That means that this thing, the weight promise that it gives, at its most minimum, because the threads are the thing that are going to strip and compress down if it does. And this is a bed we're talking about, so we're talking about bed and people. Got to make sure that it's good. But it's at its minimum state. There's no threads to strip. It's the minimum. It'll hold even more than it's rated to. And it's already rated to 1,000 pounds. So the concern is if the bed is kind of, because if you're in a bed and you move, and if the bed shears, so if it moves on the horizontal plane, so it deals with all the vertical weight, 1,000 pounds, no problem. But if you just shoulder check the bed, you're going to knock it over, just like you're going to knock over a desk or a dresser or something like that, because it might be able to sustain its weight up and down. You might be able to sit on your kitchen table, but you can knock it over. And if you've got wobbly legs, which is really what I'm doing with this, because it's basically like a knee. It's not connected in the middle. It's theoretically unstable. So I'm worried about that. So what I did is I just shoved the entire bed into the corner of a room, I'll probably do a better way of figure it out a better way, but I just took like I tore apart some Amazon boxes and I just have a couple of little squares so that the bedpost, which is a little chunky, it butts into that and it's right up into the corner of a room where that edge of the bed can't move at all in two directions. So and that those are the directions that are I guess the most vulnerable ones. So this and the arrangement is good. The arrangement is good. What I thought about ahead of time was I found these. They're actually furniture pads. So some people that have their furniture on floors have problems with traction. So they have furniture that slips, and even if it slips a little or if it's a little wobbly, they want to have some grippy thing underneath it. And there's all kinds of little cups, and there's like sticky tape stuff with rubber, and that's exactly what I got. I found these. I think they're 4x4 square, really well padded, really gripped rubber, and they're like a centimeter, maybe a little less than a centimeter, so like more than a quarter inch of thickness, and they affix really solidly, and they fit perfectly on top of the squares for these little save a step. So yeah, put that in, and that kind of sorts out some of the wobble, and it adds friction there, so it's not just one flat shiny metal surface that the bedpost is kind of kind of like sliding around on. It's got some texture now. And so I did that, and I bought some spares. I might have to buy another pack of those if I buy some more of these little save steps. But I mean, the other solution would be what, like car jacks. That's definitely going to hold all the weight. I'm not quite sure how that would work, and that would, like, there are things that you would put cars on that aren't the actual hydraulic jack thing that would definitely hold all this weight and might actually prevent a bed from moving around. So theoretically speaking, that might have been an option, but what I just did, it worked out. And now what I figured was I probably created, so I had some short bins under there before, but by lifting the bed up, I probably created about 6 square feet of essentially bedroom floor space by pushing my DVD bins. Yeah, I actually have a lot of DVDs, by pushing them under the bed, which, I mean, it's been a long time. I used to have these in a garage, but I was worried about temperature. So that's why I rescued them, I just stuffed them. And so they've been cluttering my room for like years now. And they were kind of like sitting there as a landmine. Every time I would walk in, I would sit down at a desk, there was a crowd of DVDs as one big thing to remind me of something that needs to be done. And what I was going to do is just rip them all onto hard drives, and then like put the DVDs in binders, and then get the sleeves out, or maybe keep the sleeves in the cases. I don't know, and put those in storage or something, because now temperature doesn't matter to plastic cases. So I was thinking of doing that. Now I can just stuff them under a bed. It is still permanently on my to-do list to buy new hard drives. Now hard drives are up to I think it's 14 terabytes for something that's commercially available. The cost is rather ridiculous. You're looking at, I mean, probably almost $1,000 for that. But for a 12 terabyte, I hope I didn't say gigabyte earlier. For a 12 terabyte, it is I think it's
You said 14.
No, but for 12. So the thing is, you look at there's a ratio of price. It's what is it, like cost density? I can't remember what the term is, but you look at the price and you think like, okay, well, 2 costs this much, 4 costs double that, 8 costs double that, right? But you look it up and you're like, well, and it goes, I think in the range I'm looking at, it's like 8 is my minimum because 8 is where I'm at right now for my drives and for my backup drives and for my storage. So I was thinking, well, I'll get another 8. I would free up a pair of 4s from previously. 4 is pretty good for a whole lot of my DVDs. And so, but I was looking, well, maybe I'll go to the next step, and I did the math to calculate the cost for how much storage I get. And 12 is the sweet spot. Once it gets to 14, it just goes unreasonable. They'll charge you for the extra 2 terabytes. They charge you the equivalent of 3, because it's shiny new. Never buy top of the line. If you get something that's one generation past, it'll still be solid. It'll be tried and true as long as the brand is good, as long as they have a lineage that's good that they're building on. It's not like a brand new, shiny new series. If it's a trusted series, if it was top of the line 2 years ago, it's going to be good now. And it was a good price point. So I'm looking at that. It's like, I think it's over $600 Canadian, maybe even $700, but I'm thinking it's going to be around $600 by the time I buy it. And okay, that's something I can save for as a goal. I've got other things to do in life with money like that. So I'm really not happy about that, but I do want to rescue all my DVDs before they die. And it's going to take forever to rip them all, and I need to get the special software, and sometimes it's customization for every single DVD that I try to rip. So this is a major project, but it's a chapter in my life that I want to close and have less physical stuff. But the problem is I need to buy 2. I need to buy 2 of these drives so that I can have a backup. And there are now services online that let you do quite a lot of backup online. And I am contemplating developing that relationship with one of these companies, because I've got hosting relationships, I've got domain name relationships, right? So some people have documents online or pictures hosted online and stuff like that. I don't do any of that kind of thing. I don't trust people with my stuff. I keep it private, and I will often, like, if you're not gonna put your family photos in the hands of Instagram only, in a circumstance where your stuff could be, somebody somewhere could snap their fingers and everything you've done is gone. If you don't have a backup locally that you actually control, then you don't actually have it. Do you read the agreements for the stuff you sign up for? Even the things you pay for, you may not have the rights you think you do. And I always think like that. And I don't like the idea of maybe I would have all my stuff locally and then pay somebody for like 12 terabytes of remote backup. And then that's just remote backup that I upload to and never need. But if my house burns down, it's up there, assuming I can remember my password. That would be an awkward conversation. I got locked out of a domain name once because the password didn't work anymore for some reason. Anyhow, that's a different story.
And we're back. Click.
We are a professional operation here. Okay. Hey, it doesn't go back to 24 hours or whatever for the break. That's cool.
What? I have to change the time every time.
I have no headphones on. I am totally professional. So
I have to change it manually I just change it manually every time.
Yeah, I could probably program that so it's all automated and
Like this one, that.
So the number of things that I have on the go is such that I start losing the ability to do certain things when I pick up something new. So I can talk about my major projects that are on the go right now. One is this show. Okay, physically speaking, it is separate from doing the audio editing, which I'm already allowing to leave my head. So I won't understand what compression is or what equalization is. It'll be gone. I'll have to look it up from scratch. It'll be really easy for me to get up to speed, really. But I'm going to lose it. I'm going to choose to let that go by not revisiting the topic regularly. So what I did is I boiled it into a checklist of just stuff I do. And I don't think I just go here and I have presets for every single one of these things. And I've tested probably 4 times, 4 full times editing full projects and publishing them, so I'm confident in the process. And I just refined it one last time recently. Okay, so that's two things. But regarding the editing of this show timer, so that's Lua scripting. Now, Lua scripting is associated with World of Warcraft because I was originally interested in that particular game. Other than it was popular, it seemed kind of okay. It's terrible graphics and confusing and all this kind of stuff. But it's add-on. It's user customization for the interface and for other things programmatically is in Lua. And Lua is a really nice, simple language, and it had been recommended that I learn it before. This was when I was interested in learning to program. It's always been something I've wanted to do. But it's something I had to face as one of the things I had to choose to give up in order to go do other things with my life. It turns out I fell in love with writing, and that was worth the trade. So in order for me to get back into Lua, I'd have to get back into World of Warcraft, but I have to get back into more than playing. I have to get back into the programming side of things, and I'm not a programmer. I keep telling people I'm not a programmer. People give me feature requests and stuff. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. I have to research it and then cut and paste. It's kind of what I do. I'm bright. I'm a really bright guy, and I can figure a lot of stuff out, but I just don't understand. You want me to fiddle with XML and figure it all? I don't understand this stuff. But I have several add-ons that I maintain because they're abandoned by their authors. So if I get back into WoW, I have to maintain my applications, my own customization. Then I'll know a little bit of Lua again, and then I can go and I'll probably laugh at how trivial this script is. I could probably redo it because the style is probably bad. I have a very, very particular, very insultingly verbose style for everything. And I have lots and lots of extra space around everything. Things are comfortable, and then things are lined up in columns. It's probably extremely offensive to certain people because I don't just do tabbing. Minion, you don't program. And have you ever seen source code before? Have you ever looked at it? Oh, wait, are you running off to get something to eat still?
I'm about to, but I've seen the base. I've done scripting, but I haven't done huge repository. I've done basic scripting, but I haven't done things like a huge,
Not a programming language?
thousands, nearly 10,000 of lines.
Well,
those things.
Okay, well, I'm munching on the eggs that are now cooling that I made during the break. Okay, so
you still want the tacos, or?
I mean, do you want some? Because I'm an additional excuse.
I'm starting to crave it now.
Well, okay.
I had to mention it.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, if you run out and you come back, and yeah, sure, I'm fine with that. And we'll just kind of run off, and not a big deal. Oakley dokley. So yeah, go whenever you want. I'm fine with that. So, and I'll keep rambling. So regarding the programming.
So it'll be as if I wasn't even there.
Yes. I just won't try to ask you things and expect any response. I'll expect an even less intelligible response from the empty mic. from your empty chair.
Now I should just play music and walk off. Lock the door.
No, you just make me talk over me. I probably couldn't even tell if there was music playing, so you'd just be trolling the crap out of me. I come back and post. I'm like, what the heck? I would get really mad. Actually, I wouldn't get really mad because I have my own private recording that you can't do anything to. So this is not a suggestion. Okay, so what was I talking? I was talking about programming, and this is the kind of thing that I would share. But the thing is, my programming life and my writer life and the podcasting life, they're all separate things. I might mix my writer life with this only because I've got my own YouTube channel that I've abandoned because I shifted my interests out here. So I would normally talk like this with specific topics in mind and put my face on camera, and that would just be a video. And it might be like a 40-minute video or something like that. So I in that sense, I have the writer, the real me out in my own stuff. And so this is separate and this show is separate. I can't remember why I was talking about that. But yeah, so I have other stuff that I had to kind of like let fall out of my head. And I have to be pretty selective about what I do. And every once in a while, something really interesting will come along. Like the phone thing was interesting. Like, and I'm done. I have all the stuff I need. I think the last problem I want to solve is why the heck is my phone not ringing when people are calling me? Like, I was sleeping and I ended up having 2 messages. And it was really weird because I didn't hear the actual phone ring. So I'm not sure if maybe they're doing some magic to go straight to voicemail or what's going on. But other than that, I'm done with the phone. I've solved all my problems. I have to interact with one of the developers with one of the pieces of software some more, or a couple, and like I'll diverge to other directions. So I learned about like color contrasts for interface elements, and I did my research on this the bedpost thing, and I'll have to go back to DVD research for ripping those DVDs, and then I'll I did my mood research. Maybe I'll research pasta some more, or something weird like that. Go to the oracle that is Google and type in pasta mood, and then pick some bad things. Be like pasta mood anger, and see. And it's the internet, so you ask Google anything, it'll just give you something, because there's some combination of people out there that have talked about stuff. There's actually a trick. I can't remember what the game is, but the game is if you can give Google something and it gives you 0 results, you win. That's the game. And I've actually done that a couple of times. It's kind of hilarious. So, sometimes when I'm researching certain things, so sometimes when I'm trying phrases, when I don't know the language and I'm just trying stuff, I will find some combination of words and I'll just use natural language. Old Google used to make you do like keyword and 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 most people didn't understand how any of that worked, so they modified things to have to allow you just to type in whatever random phrases, and it's really good, but you use double quotes, and there are ways of using, and this is just Google, ways of using it rather intelligently. So okay. I can't remember what I was talking about. So for programming, I got kind of okay with Lua. Kind of okay. I got to kind of do some stuff. I don't understand the add-on side of stuff for programming, but I understood a little bit of the Lua stuff. And I had also tinkered with it for multi-user dungeons. So they're called MUDs or MOOs. I can't remember what MOO stands for. And these are text-based games. I had plenty of fun, and the programming side of that is you can automate certain action reaction stuff, and so you can have triggers that perform certain actions that print certain stuff out, and it was fun to figure out. I had a lot of fun, and I did it in both Lua and in Ruby. Ruby was the thing that I really wanted to learn. It didn't work out. I should have picked Python. Now Ruby is kind of dead in the water now. Because it lacks a compiler. Really, that's the thing that it lacks. I have to glance over a chat. That's Minion's job. I have to make sure that there aren't too many people chatting. And I'm just going to be a brutal dictator if anybody trolls me, because I'm not going to be a very good judge of character. Minion's the nice one. Well, Minion is himself. So, okay. So what else have I not talked? Okay, so I know the times are very strange, and a lot of people are using delivery services, and a lot of things are taking a lot of time. I know there are Americans. I keep hearing all these. I wouldn't call them horror stories, but it's an expected delay. And honestly, if you're ordering stuff overseas from warehouses that are overseas, right? it's going to take you time. I've got a couple of ways to order stuff direct from places in China. And that was the thing, I bought all my knickknacks. You're like, well, maybe I should order like a pack of safety pins just cause. And maybe I should order, like I've got a tape measure here because I still can't quite understand the entire like metric imperial conversion thing for measurements. So if I'm ordering stuff online, I don't know what 5 inches means. I'm like, okay, and I can gesture in certain ways, and I understand widths between fingers as certain measurements. But it's really nice for me to pull out a tape measure. And so I buy all this stuff from random places in China, right? Okay. And I know how long shipping takes. I know from over there to in Canada, anywhere, even though we've got like flights and trucks within Canada do really well, it's still going to take 2-3 months. Easy. And there can be money back guarantees, but I don't like, you can get your money back if things are late. I don't pursue that. I've done it a few times. It's not like I'm nice about it. I don't want to burn shippers like that. A lot of them must. It's a really bad idea to sell stuff online. Just don't. Like, you should not do it. You should not have a business based around that, because there are too many protections given to buyers, and it's kind of unfortunate. And it does end up ruining a lot of businesses. They end up being not like really unprofitable, like really, and it's a lot of work. So I understand things take time, okay? But a lot of the more recent ordering that I've been doing has been ordering, and stuff is warehoused locally. So it might take 3 months to get here, but it takes 3 months to get here, then it's stored in Canada. Then I order, and it goes from the storage in Canada to me. And it cut, truck, flight, whatever the heck, to me. And then it takes a couple of weeks, and that's fine. If it takes a couple of weeks, that's fine. And so I don't experience the nightmare, the delays, the like first world ingratitude that I've heard from a bunch of other people. So I still order a lot of stuff online. And for the first time in a long while, I had a package that was like mysteriously delayed. And it was one of these, oh, well, we're sorry that it hasn't arrived when we expected. And like Amazon is pretty good about its shipping tracking stuff. I actually don't know why they put it on their own website, but they do fetch the data from like, for us, so Canada Post, for a lot of stuff. But I can go directly to them to check tracking on stuff, and I can have them email me, which is really nice. And I may as well talk about it. So one of the things I set up with my phone is I set up certain special accounts and certain naggy alarms and stuff like that. So my phone can actually check email on one particular account and give me notifications for that account. So I can have, if my mail gets dropped off and I don't hear them knock or whatever, I'll get a notification on my phone, hopefully when they get around to updating stuff on their side of things. So UPS is right away, and Canada Post is eventually. And so that's nice. But this particular package, it's like, not today, maybe tomorrow. Nope, not today, maybe tomorrow. And it came in at a really unusual first thing in the morning time. So there was some problem, and they must have had a spare truck driving around dropping this stuff off special. Now, my package was damaged. And you remember how I had been talking about the garden hose nozzle? Okay, there's certain experiences that a person goes through where it's a learning opportunity, and it isn't just that you should learn from that opportunity to extend it towards the same kind of thing. It should be broadened more. And I've done a lot of shipping enough, and I can't remember everything all the time. But I learned enough that I took pictures and a video of the package because it was damaged. And if the items inside are damaged, I don't want anybody to say it's my fault, because that can make getting a replacement or a refund complicated. You never want to have it boil down to, hey, trust me, I'm a nice guy. because although I am, that is based on, like, that being believed is based on a longer term relationship with the seller, or with the using the protection mechanisms of the website you're buying through, for example. And you don't want to strain either of those things. You want to have good long-term relations with the people selling you things, and you want to have consistent, solid use of the platform. I'm pretty sure, for example, that I pissed off Walmart, because I actually had their number, and I would actually physically call them for certain things, because certain stuff, I can't even remember why, but I must have been annoying. I must have been one of these annoying people. And I'm pretty sure that they looked at my account and flagged it and went, well, these kinds of things we're not selling to you anymore. And those things were mysteriously unavailable. So I'm like, oh yeah, well, I moved away from Walmart anyway, because what Walmart did is they changed how they sold stuff online. So it isn't that I want fresh groceries, but they don't sell that in Canada. And that, I mean, that's true, but I'm not going to get fresh delivery from any place except some local specialist place, or farmers markets or something like that, if you're willing to go kind of out of your way. But Walmart shifted their concept of favoriting items, and they moved the interface, they moved so far out of the way. Like, and it's annoying because it was my industry, understanding this stuff. You would think that you would, okay, I go to a website that has lots of stuff. I go to a website, find the search bar, which should always be at the top. It should always be obvious. I shouldn't have to click a magnifying glass and have it unfold on me. I shouldn't have animations. I just go to the top, click into a text field, typey type, press enter. Okay. And then it gives me search results. From this, and the search results should be related to what I typed in. And the thing is, some websites put in advertising and stuff like that, and sponsored results. Okay. But I should be able to click on a product, visit the full product page, and then from that product page say, well, I want to buy it now, or I want to add it to my cart, or I want to favorite it for later. I should have that functionality. Walmart doesn't let me favorite there. I have to go to this separate area, search for the product by name specifically, and then I can favorite it from those separate search results. And it's like, I had to call them to walk a person through the procedure, to ask them, like, how, like, did you take away favorites? The only way that I could actually find my favorite stuff was because I happened to have a bookmark. I couldn't find it in the regular interface. They changed things. They removed the little heart symbol next to your product image. Like, maybe they fixed it by now, but for a long time it was just gone. So, what I did is, once I could figure out how to get to my favorites list, I bookmarked all those items. I looked all those items up on Amazon, and that's it. I'm done with Walmart. I walked away. And there are things that I wanted to buy on Walmart for forever. Just, because you could buy individual cans and stuff like that. And they would all come indented, because that's how Walmart sends all their stuff. All the things that get returned or they get wrecked in shipping or whatever, they'll just ship out to me, because what am I going to do, right? They'll just claim that it was dented in shipping, which it may well have been. But I have to physically bundle it all up and walk over to a store and get a refund there, which is not really doable. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who they order because that's what's possible, because there's no Walmart nearby. So Walmart's kind of like being nefarious about getting rid of all their canned goods. And maybe they started running out of dented stuff to send to me. So they're like, well, this is out of stock. No, we don't have dented cans of tuna in stock right now. Sorry. So I just went to Amazon, and the limitation of Amazon is they don't quite do little things. They have add-ons now. And that was a really good thing to see. Amazon has so many really excellent features. I mean, I understand that they're evil and all this kind of stuff, but Yeah, I got no problem with it. I'll poke around with them, and if I and one of the problems is when you're poking around Amazon, there's a helper for this that I have bookmarked, but I forgot it. That'll actually walk through all the different Amazons, like Amazon.ca is where I shop, and there's Amazon.com, which tends to be the United States, right? And the prices are different, and the prices can be extremely different. So I might actually be able to order something up from the United States, and then there's like a what would you call it? Like the border taxing type stuff. They can have a guaranteed amount where that's what I put in. And if it's less, I get my money back. If it's more, I don't pay any extra, which is great. I want to know the prices up front. And so I can actually be like, well, it's a much lower product price in the United States, significant shipping price. It might be free in Canada, significant in the United States to ship, and there's an extra border fee. And that total might be less. And I might have to wait more. But there are these tools where I could go through all the different Amazons, and it's cheaper to do it certain ways. I don't know if that's going to be the thing anymore, maybe ever again, but it's something to keep in mind. Amazon's got so many other features. The add-on program that lets me like buy a single box of cookies. Well, usually it's like minimum of 2, that kind of thing. But I can just throw that into my cart, round it up to, in Canada, it's $35 before you get free shipping. And then you can get these little items, but you can't do that for like a can of pasta. You got to get a bunch, like 12, and there's a whole lot of stuff I can't order online. So I still do certain stuff in stores. I'll physically go to a Walmart, but I'm going to do that anyway for whenever I get fresh goods, which is less and less now. I'm becoming less dependent on these sorts of things. I wonder if that's Minion coming home with food. One sec, let me check. Is that Minion?
So, bad news.
Oh crap, what?
The lineup took way too long.
Oh, so you just abandoned it and left?
I abandoned it. I'll just go back later.
I mean, were you fixated on that particular, like, business? You could have gone to some other place, I suppose.
It just wouldn't be the same.
Would
Craving's a craving.
find yourself like a Mexican place and just be like, hey, I am. You were second best. Second, I can't remember what the term would be. Second pick?
Next runner-up.
Yeah. Which I'm sure you get blank stares going to an actual pseudo-authentic place and be like, I wanted to go to Taco Bell, but I guess I'm going to have to. And there. I guess I'm going to have to spend 4 times as much buying quality. Well, what you going to do? Oh, I need to eat more. One sec.
Right, being the only person that talks. And then
We're doomed.
the other guy just disappeared.
Well, I mean, I'm not like shoving it in your face that I actually have half an omelet. But theoretically speaking, like, you can have my bacon and eggs for all it matters and make your own. There's what was I talking about? So, I mean, I understand that Amazon is making a spectacular amount of money, things being changed the way they are. I don't know if they're actually going to be doing drone delivery or anything weird like that, which would be hilarious. You get like, instead of delivery trucks, you kind of have like aircraft carriers that drive down the street with little drones. I think that would just be awesome and strange. I mean, yeah, that's. I'm sure that there's some science fiction movie somewhere that kind of had that subtly thrown in there. What would be the equivalent? Fifth Element. Good movie. If you haven't seen that, you should probably see that. I know Minnie and I made you watch that. It's a good movie. You do get to see Mila Jovovich topless, which, I mean, was quite...
She's been topless in like a few things.
Oh, she's a model, right? Like, she was a proper
At
model.
this point, it's
like, so she was an actual, like, high-end runway model. And which is why she was just so thin, which is, I actually don't like that. I know there's a lot of women who are all like, they have this problem with comparing themselves to what they perceive as an ideal, because that's how they think. And so they think men want runway models, but that the stick figure thing there is like a really it's really odd because that's abnormal. That's atypical. It's weird. And I don't walk down the street and I don't see that kind of human at all. And so it's so when somebody so when a model comes up on the screen, for example, because there's a lot of crossovers that are happening, you want a pretty face, you pull it into a movie. And these are people, they can be trained as actors, they can do well enough, and occasionally you do better than average, or you have a role really suited. So the Lilu role for Mila was perfectly suited because she was a young in terms of acting, and so it was kind of like a dumb role where you can put an inexperienced kind of actor into that role, so it worked really well. But because she came from the modeling terrain, and she was interesting to look at because that's just really, I mean, it's not freak show weird because these are people that are selected in the modeling industry, but it's definitely atypical and definitely kind of interesting. So she's pretty in the face, but there's a lot of model bodies that are just odd. So women have this weird, yeah. I don't think they understand yet. I still need to chew some more. Hang on. Yeah, this was a bad idea. I should have just tried to wolf it and kept our break longer rather than torture.
And now we know.
Well, I knew I was hungry going in. I just didn't. I thought maybe I would have like a Pepsi and the caffeine would be an appetite suppressant, or make an actual cup of coffee. Now that I think of it, maybe I should have put a cup of coffee and put some chocolate whole food in it, and that would be my substance. But the risk of doing stuff like that is like the combination of coffee and whole food. So the powdered food not mixed correctly could actually be upsetting to a stomach, and I could overeat it without quite realizing it. But I'm smart. I understand that, so I could avoid that. But coffee, a lot of people, coffee first thing in the morning will upset the digestion, and so that might mean that in the middle of a show, I'd have to go, and that's not right. So I don't think that I would have coffee during a break because I'm just maybe if I hadn't fasted for a huge chunk of the day before actually starting the show, which is what happened to me, then I would be okay. But I know that if I break my fast with coffee plus a meal replacement or something like that, that's probably going to wreck me. I'm not complaining. That's actually a good thing to know. It's a good thing for me to know about myself that if I have certain circumstances, I will get certain outcomes, because it's actually quite a good thing for you to have your morning ablutions and you're okay for the day or for most of the day, right? So I could go out and about and I won't have, a rumbling in my tummy because I've treated it a certain way and it has responded in a way that's natural. I'm not like antagonizing my body into forcing it to react a certain way. It's just it works out. I know I have a plan and things work out. So I don't mind that it happens, and it's nice that it's predictable. For everything, it's nice to have predictability, even if things are. It's the argument is it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't, and this is one of the shortcomings that humans have. It's kind of a fear-hope problem, where you can work with something you understand well enough that you can deal with the problems, and you can make that, and if you make that your 80% time dealing with that, including dealing with that bad stuff, and hope that you have a little 20% time left over to optimize. But if you replace demons, the 80% time that you've already optimized might go out the window. You don't know, and so you might be really burdened. And a lot of businesses are like that. They don't want to change their software, their hardware, their procedures. Things are going well enough. They're profitable. They don't want to experiment at all. But the thing is, the next company up will see an opportunity through like a technological change will come about. So you'll have some disruption, disrupting technology will pop in, and then a new business will be founded to take advantage of that. And it doesn't have the baggage of previous procedures. It just targets the new stuff, the good stuff, and they will dominate and push out. They'll blindside that other business because that other business wasn't willing to change, or they didn't have their ear to the ground, or this kind of stuff. That reminds me, I watched this one video because I was looking up the 25 changes to Android 10, and so I started getting recommendations for this one dude. I don't mind. He's really well spoken, and I like him. I like him. And he was talking about the war between Google and Samsung, is it? And I didn't know. I don't care because Google. I don't like Google at all, and I pull out their services whenever I can, and I replace them and all this kind of stuff. And I've been quite successful at using the tools cooked into Android against itself, because it kind of has to have certain underlying security features. So I'm actually able to force stop and disable a whole lot of stuff. And it'll remove the desktop icon. Everything is gone. It's great. Now, apparently, Samsung wanted to get away from everything, like wanted to get away from Android itself, which I understand and I approve. And this YouTube video, the presenters going over all the different events and comparing all the feature sets, where they're trying to make clones of certain applications, or trying to use alternatives. Like you'll use Microsoft Word Online instead of Google Docs, and there's this other mapping third-party thing instead of Google Maps, and on and on and on, and what Google is doing to be the API, so to be the underlying mechanics upon which all app developers build their stuff. So, for example, using Google as your map, your location provider, that's a big thing. But also, if I wanted to transfer from my old phone to my new phone, there's a procedure using Google Drive to push all my data up to one and pull it down, but I can only use Google Drive, which makes absolutely no sense to me, because I could just dump it all into like one tar file, stick it on my computer, and pull it up on my other phone. Like this is not hard, but they chose to make it proprietary with their stuff. Now, and this video producer was saying, well, this is how things work, and they're making this agreement and things are being smoothed out. I'm like, no, bro, because I know way more than most people. So, spoiler for people watching this in the future. At the hardware architecture level, like I've said in the past, the problem with technology, if you want to improve speed, isn't hardware, it's software. Now, that is not entirely true, because there has been behind the scenes an understanding that the fundamental philosophies underneath the computing technology that we're using is off. And there have been struggles with certain philosophies in building certain architectures and the way certain CPUs work. There have been certain philosophies that have branched out to explore certain possibilities, and a lot of other things have been dead ends. And commercially speaking, so production and prices and all the things, and they're dealing with like a market that is already kind of metastasized around a certain kind of technology because software compatibility problems and stuff. Okay, so what there has been an understanding there. So there's RISC and CISC. So in computing architecture, there is one notion where you would have the CPU educated on performing as many operations as possible, as is reasonable, and then your program would just use all those shortcuts. And those were all like little programs built into the CPU to perform certain more complex operations. And the CPU is optimized to do those things incredibly well. And it takes some of the heavy lifting away from the programming. It makes it all really well optimized, makes it right in the bare metal. And it's great. It's a great idea. But there's another philosophy, which is to reduce them to a minimum amount. So you've got a less complex CPU. And it turns out that that is an extremely valuable philosophy for low temperature, low power, which is what all phones are. And more laptops, so a lot of thin books and stuff like Chromebooks and stuff like that are using ARM technology. And ARM is, it was never a competitor to desktop processors because you can't like run Windows programs on ARM. You just can't. It's totally incompatible hardware. It's speaking a different language kind of thing. So that's been a barrier. And ARM, in terms of just raw computing power, can't get to what a traditional like Intel compatible processor can do. And the Intel processors have been so well researched, well funded. The industry is incredible and expansive, and it just absolutely dominates for everything but power consumption and heat, maybe even size. And so the market's kind of diverged, where ARM is now specialized for all these thin devices. Now, Apple has made a special arrangement, because one of the interesting things about ARM is that the creators of ARM actually have an allowance that lets a licensee use their technology and make specialized modifications for their own purposes. And Apple went hard on that. They didn't just design their own infrastructure, their own processor, but they manufacture it as well. And that's part of what makes, and they know all their insides, and they don't sell their stuff to other people. They use it internally. That's what makes iPhones so much quote unquote faster than Android phones, because it's custom right down to the hardware, and the operating system really, like, it's made, the hardware is made for the operating system, which is made for the hardware, and it's all wonderful. So their walled garden is really fast. Now, Apple is going to be moving desktop PCs to that same ARM technology. They're going to be doing it. And this sort of announcement is the kind of stuff that is way behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about right now. And the other thing is, Microsoft has also been looking at the exact same thing. They've been looking at what it would take to move all of Windows down to ARM, because they've examined this problem before. They've got the Windows Phone, they've had Windows CE, they've experimented, they've been exploring, and they see the writing on the wall. They see, a lot of places will see traditional desktop CPUs as being powerhouses for specific applications, but for regular desktops, ARM is now powerful enough that it can do regular desktop computing. Now we're thinking about gaming. We're thinking about gaming and heavy computing purposes. Heavy computing is what? Spreadsheets? Specialized computers don't need these. There could be another class of computer that runs these faster processors and be done with it. And everyday people would have these lower cost, power efficient ARM CPUs. Now, I know Apple is moving their stuff, is migrating to ARM, because they have an engine. They kind of sucked at it, but they moved from a different RISC over to the Intel platform some time ago, and they just abandoned compatibility with their old stuff. And they made this weird compatibility layer to run their old software on the new technology, the new hardware. And they're thinking, well, our new hardware is faster, so we can run the old software, and that speed difference doesn't matter. We'll make up for that speed problem of doing the translation, doing the emulation. We'll make up for that with more powerful hardware. And it's true. And it worked, except their software stunk. It really stunk, and it crashed a lot and all these problems. They learned from that. They're going to do it again, but they're going to have the quote unquote emulation happens at the install level. So you upgrade your hardware, you reinstall, you get a new operating system, and then you install your software. You would just go and you would install your old software. The installer would go, oh, this is legacy software, would go and it would actually, during the installation process, walk through the software and translate it to the new technology. So when you're running that old software, it's been installed. It is just like native software. So you don't have these compatibility problems and you don't have these speed problems. It's just magic. And when Mac figures that stuff out properly, they'll be able to trivially migrate all their users over to stuff. And then they're going to make laptops able to replace their desktops. For everyday people, your laptop will be running the old technology, like your old software, with this new, thin, fast, low temperature stuff. And Apple was absolutely insane about getting at, like, you open up a contemporary MacBook, for example. It's just a battery with like some computing gear kind of in the corner somewhere, but it's one big fat battery. They changed to this other technology, lower heat, lower power. They're going to get battery life that is absolutely incomprehensible compared to now. It's going to be phone levels of battery life on a full laptop, and it's a full laptop at full laptop speeds, right? Because ARM is getting better. So Apple is working on new processor technology and new hardware for a MacBook and all this new software stuff. And they're going to release it all at the same time. And it's going to create a product that will be superior to their earlier classes of desktop in a laptop form that has a battery life that is better than a current phone. It will be crazy. So a laptop that lasts all day, just all day. And it's a full laptop and you want to game on it, okay? It'll be able to do that. And your power temperature problems will be at the graphics card level. It will not be at the CPU level anymore. It'll be gone. And so I know that stuff is all out there. It's all being worked on right now. There have been some murmurs about bits and pieces, and I just happen to know that it's all together in one package. Windows, Microsoft, not dumb. They understand these processor changes. I've known about them for so long. It's just an inevitability. When you have simplicity in your hardware, you can improve hardware in some really interesting ways. And it just took a while for ARM to catch up, and it's caught up. It's caught up. So Microsoft, I know that they've been working on. It's the holy grail is to have desktop plus phone plus laptop all kind of be the same even platform, and Microsoft has been working on ways of getting their operating system down to be compatible at the phone level. And it did not work because they don't have a good product. So the Windows phones exist, but they're not popular. I definitely will be going towards something like a Windows phone if I do upgrade once this technology is out. But, and it's just to kind of like make the idea of running something on your phone versus your desktop to be the same thing. I want to have a docking phone is really what I want. So, but really what I'm going to be looking at is a handheld computer. So I've got a little laptop for writing because I want a big keyboard. But for a general purpose portable computer, I will be getting a Pyra because I have a Pandora. And a Pyra is just a tiny clamshell laptop. But it's a laptop I can fit in my pocket with a giant battery. And it runs Linux and it's all open, including the hardware, and it's got the gaming controls, so I can play all kinds of video games, and people are wild about emulation, so I'll be able to play like all my old favorite games and all this kind of stuff. I could play like my PlayStation 2 games and stuff like that. And so that's what I'm going to be getting. So the phone stuff, I know what's on the horizon. I know where I would be investing my money, for example. So if you've got the money to invest, look into investing in Apple as a start, specific for this, understanding this stuff. specifically the CPU stuff, if you can get some more specific investments going, if you can get it in ARM itself or in the industries involved in manufacturing or distributing this kind of stuff, look into the patent holders and back them, this kind of stuff. The change that's going to be coming in terms of technology is going to be great. It's going to take a while for me to be unseated, though, because I really like where my hardware is at. I am very low power, low temperature for the contemporary kind of technologies, and I'll be fine for a very, very long time. And I'm certainly absolutely not going to go with a Mac because I absolutely hate OS 10, OS X. I hate that stuff. I hate all their software. I hate their environment, etc. But I know it's going to be changing. Anyhow, we're coming up on another break. We're going to be back in another 10 minutes. I'm sure I've got some more stuff I want to talk about later. So I'll see you soon. And I'm back. I see there was no break music.
Oh.
I keep telling you, you need scene switching.
That's the thing I keep forgetting.
Well, okay, write that right now on your to-do list. And scene switching will give you the music at least. I don't know about the fade effects, but I know they exist. I just don't know how they work. I have not investigated that. That's your job. I mean, there's lots of exciting stuff that you could actually do, that you could learn about. And speaking of you learning about stuff, so it's oppressively difficult. So I haven't been in a good mood, as demonstrated last show. So I haven't done anything other than a basic run through about like a sixth of my processing for one of the shows. I think I'm on episode 15. And I've only done a bit of it. And it occurs to me that I actually checklisted it so well that I could instruct you on how to at least edit your side of stuff. Because I'm at the point when it's getting very difficult. And so you use an open mic, but you use an open mic and your sensitivity is such that your breathing gets picked up. And I need to actually block off when you speak and blank out large swaths of stuff and deal with things. And it's difficult. It's getting extremely difficult. And pushing that responsibility onto you would help, but what would at least help is, and it's really easy, is giving you the checklist, walking you through it a couple of times, giving you the checklist on how you can perform the actions exactly as I do on your track, so that before you give it to me, what you're giving to me is you're giving me two things. One, you're giving me your original audio, and two, you're giving me a copy of that original audio that's been processed with this checklist. And I can take that and I can add my own efforts. I can merge my efforts to that. So I'll have the multiple tracks that are original, not even synchronized or anything, just kind of there. And the other one, which is our audio adjusted stuff. And then I can begin I will manually do a lot of the other stuff. It would be nice to educate you up to replacing me for all this stuff now that I've done all the research. The research is done. It's just time at this point. And that time can be shifted to you. And maybe that's more your suit. If I tailor the checklists to you, even if I have to sit down and make like videos and just show everything, but I can sit over your shoulder and like point at stuff. And it's pretty straightforward, and we can remote desktop and just show you and show you and show you. And again, a checklist, a bulleted point list, walks through, and it's just perfect. So what are your thoughts on doing something like that? On because you had mentioned some interest in starting clipping.
I'll just take over that, or not take over, but reduce a day for you.
Well, hopefully, yeah. I mean, even if it's just the basic processing on your end, then that's like an hour saved or something silly for me. I wanted to, while I'm talking about audio quality. Okay, so I think it was last show. Last show there was a complaint about my volume. And so I went looking, and my volume was set to 100% when normally it would be set to 80. That's the recommendation I used to use a previous microphone and I had certain settings in certain ways. I had problems with my old microphone. That's why I replaced it. And I might actually I need to find the right cable for it. But I want to bring that up and Minion get you to try it because it might be better than your headset. But there, I mean, because you're not using your computer at the same time, you can like pull back and like fiddle on your tablet. Then you don't have the vibration problems with it on a stand because it's really heavy, so you can't put it up on an arm. You can mount it to a wall. Vibration issues, right? So to improve your sound quality, because I think it's important. Improving the person, the software is probably more important, like getting you to talk. But once we're on camera, or once I'm on camera, maybe I can see you, but we're not recording you. Like maybe that interaction will help us. Like, because really, you remember what we originally wanted was to be up in the kitchen or something and just talk, and that becomes impossible if there are other people that want to use the space. It becomes impossible if we can't control the audio, if we can't control the traffic, if the time of day becomes a problem. We've settled on a decent time of day, right? And this works. And this would work in a kitchen, but this is exactly when people would want to be like cooking. So none of it works out. I can't. And when we were talking like that, we would have body language that could communicate better, that would give us better breaks to let us not talk over one another, or like we'd have expressions, and a lot of that is missing. It'll come across in tone, but it's nowhere near the same. So moving to a video might make it easier for you to talk, for me to know when you have something to say, even if it's just little stuff. And that would be the right direction. So that's the software side of stuff, and then you actually talking would be justification for an improved microphone experience. So I mean, you are free to remind me of any time to just, because it's just sitting up on my mantle. I need to find a cable for it. I know where, but now that I have more floor space, I can find stuff in this room. So I can actually pull out my toolkit, and I can pull out my bag of USB cables, and I can find it, and it's pretty straightforward how you hook it up. It is its own audio device. Oops, that was me clicking my can. Let's try that again. It is its own audio device, and so it kind of auto detects everything. Okay, so doable. So I noticed when I made those changes, it improved our stream. I had to audio edit and pull up the audio anyway. So the stream might have been quieter than it ought to have been. It was normalized up to a reasonable height, a reasonable volume level in post anyway, so it's not a big deal. However, in playing game voice chat, people are saying I was really quiet. So I had to fiddle around. Like I went back and I'm going playing a little bit of World of Warcraft again, and we're like a couple of weeks away from new content dropping, so I'm trying to get back into things, and so I was chatting with guildmates, and they could not hear me through Discord properly, so I had to go and update my settings, and I pushed it all back to 100%. So things are where they used to be again. And that means, technically speaking, maybe I'm pretty loud. It doesn't matter how I'm recording because the volume is fine there. I can see lots of blue lines, so the recording is fine. But I mean, I sound like you sound fine to me when you talk. Do I sound like I'm shouting or something when you're listening to me?
I ha or every fun times talking. So how I do my volume setting is on the PC it's set to 50%, and then on my headset it's set to 50% as well.
And so,
It's everything sounds fine,
okay, what I was told,
but my sound settings is completely weird.
so when I was looking for advice on understanding volume and so I threw in a bunch of phrases like how to make a podcast sound better, stuff like that, right? I found all kinds of advice, learned the language of it, and one of the things they said was to like adjust your settings and then go and watch like a YouTube video or something, and you get a music video or you get somebody's content and you hear it, and your hearing hears it at a certain volume level. Then you go and record yourself and make sure that that output is also at that same level, right? And understand where you're normalizing to so that it all comes up to that level. Because you don't want somebody to watch a video or listen to a podcast or something and then need to tweak their volume for you. Now, I don't fully understand that stuff. And that's something that's actually quite critical to understand. So for now, what I've done is I don't have in my checklist fiddling with my volume settings at all. And you sound fine. So I know your volume output is correct. So, I mean, maybe Discord is pretty smart about stuff. Actually, that reminds me. Hang on a second. I'm going to look at Discord settings. Because
All mine are set to automatic.
And I don't have the ability to change your volume, which is a little weird. So one of the things is if you set up your own Discord channel and you create a room, quote unquote room, where you can invite people to do a voice chat, you can actually modify each person's volume in that list. And that feature does not exist when you're just direct chatting with somebody, which, I mean, I could probably go to Discord and have that suggested, because I don't understand why that wouldn't be there. Like, that is really weird. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, found it. Okay. So, in the top bar of Discord.
Oh, you just right-click the face icon.
Yeah, exactly. I was right-clicking on the direct messages list on the left, which I guess is wrong. But yeah, so that lets me change volume.
Let's adjust the volume in direct messages.
Well, because I'm expecting the left-hand list just to work exactly like the left-hand list in a room chat, but obviously not. So this was my second bet. It's not. A lot of stuff is kind of out of the way. But you're 50% here, so I know all the circumstances of my volume for you are all correct. And if the same is true in reverse, where if I sound fine with your settings, then now the problem is post-production doing the normalization. If I were to go right now to lucidindifference.com and I were to click on playlist of all podcasts and I were to click on podcast number 4 and I were to listen to it and it were to actually buffer yeah, I sound good. Maybe a little bit quiet, but what I would really want to do is make sure. Is this only up to number 10? Are you not populating this list? You remember there are 2 playlists that you're also adding videos to?
Yeah, last time I uploaded was a few days ago, and then it's either yesterday or the day before. It finally occurred to me I haven't been updating the playlist.
You need to add,
but I didn't touch the account for a while, so.
Well, it needs to be part of your checklist, right? So right now it's up to 10, which is annoying. So let me just manually go and. So I would double check the most recent one to know that my most recent changes are good. If the stream buffering, yeah, I sound good. So what really needs to happen is you compare the volume of some random video. Oh wow, other people sound great in stereo. And it's somebody else's random podcast that was recommended. How strange. And I think it's a comedian, and I don't recognize that language. It's in Cyrillic, I think. How very strange. That can't be, though. That's like Mongolian? I can't even understand ethnicity by looking at people. I'm like, They're kind of like Northeastern Asian-ish, based on this character set as well. Neat. Anyhow, I'm all totally international and stuff. Ooh, she's cute. You. Now I get to hear them actually speak. Okay, so you can't hear any of that anyway, but my random surfing, if we were to actually do this live while I was screen sharing, would be the most comical thing. And that's an interesting language. I was right. It's Mongolia. Ha! I'm awesome. And
Things to feel proud about.
I definitely wasn't blindly guessing. See, hey, Cyrillic and the way they appeared, and yeah, there you go. Time till next break. Are you now doing the thing? Checklist, bro. Checklist. Scene changes. I still have the little keypad thing and the software that I can show you and to do the scene switching. It's fallen out of my head, but I've got it all saved, including procedures and all this kind of stuff. So I am capable of getting you up to speed. You have to learn a thing once. What else? Oh, yeah, I guess this is kind of okay. So I'm down to some pretty boring stuff, so we might end up early. I okay. So I'm learning Frisian, and one of the things about this language is it's not Dutch. It's a separate language. So it's a separate language spoken in the Netherlands, and Dutch uses the same Latin character set as English. It's missing a couple characters. It's slightly weird, but there's nothing all funny and with accents and stuff. It's just an alphabet. And but Frisian is not like that. Frisian has a few characters that have different kinds of accents. And so I'm Canadian, and we've got some French in some places, so we recognize certain kinds of accents already because it's cooked into French. And so I recognize those things, but there's some stuff that I would just see that look like German, like dots over things, and I don't get it. And so I actually had to learn how to make those funny characters on Windows. Now, I'm an old DOS guy, and there was actually alt codes on a keypad. So you hold Alt and you type numbers on a keypad, and it would output funny characters. And the legendary one was the non-breaking space, Alt 255. And that stuff made it into Windows, and Windows has always been a pretty international piece of software, but certainly it is now. And things are more complicated than just those little 3-digit codes. Now there are 4-digit codes. There's the Unicode stuff. And so I went looking up how you do this stuff, and I learned how you change your international keyboard. And I've done it accidentally, and it's pissed me off. Okay, so you hold the Windows key and you tap the space bar, and it's just like Alt-Tab, and it lets you switch between different keyboards. And so I actually installed I have an English Canadian US keyboard, whatever that means. So I can actually change my built-in dictionaries and stuff like that. I don't really know where those are or how those work, because all my programs have their own dictionaries. And I installed a Frisian dictionary, of all things. And I'll describe it really quick, because it's an interesting thing. I knew about European keyboards. And there are so for example, Britain does not use the $ so much, and they shifted a few keys around. And so they've got the pound symbol, and the British pound, the currency, not the pound like the number sign that we use. And so they have keys that are a little different. And that's a physical keyboard difference, and that has to be mapped out at the operating system level so that you press that key, the correct character appears on screen. So I knew about that, and I knew because I knew a German guy, well, a Polish guy in Germany, and his keyboard was certain keys were annoying for him to type, so it was a little bit of a struggle. But he what he had is he had an Alt GR key, like it's a compose key, and it's like an Alt key or a Control key, right? So you press it, and then you press another character, and then you get certain outputs. I don't really fully understand that technology, like how that works, but that is a very, very old mechanism of typing the funny variants of characters. So there's a difference between the letter E and an E accent aigu. So an E with like one of the sloping characters over top of it, like little lines. And you've got a whole bunch of different variations of that, and different dots and little hooks underneath characters, and there's a lot of variation. So the letter E could have more than one variation. And for your phone, it is most visible. So you might have to have a different keyboard for this, because you can install so if you're typing, like you're in your search bar or something like that, and you've got your virtual keyboard up, if you hold one of your keys down, you often will get a pop-up with different variations. So sometimes, like, you would hold the period key down, it would pop up, you can put a comma there or a semicolon, this kind of stuff. But if you hold the letter E, you get a pop-up, and it will give you variations of the letter E. That's pretty straightforward, but there's no equivalent on Windows. And so you would have this hotkey where you would switch to an international keyboard, but you still have so for me, it's a United States 104 keyboard. It's pretty standard stuff. But I only have one letter E. I only have one of it, all the letters. So how would I physically type one of these things? Well, you have the equivalent of compose keys, where you've got multiple other keys that are assigned, where you press that other key, nothing happens on the screen, but it prepares the next character you type to accept that kind of accent. So for example, normally you have a single quote key, you press single quote, and then like the letter E, and it puts a line over top of it, sloping from bottom left to top right. Okay, and you could do that with the letter A, and you can do that, etc. And for all the valid, for Frisian, it's vowels. And it's at the top left, you've got the backtick key. So that creates, typing that in the letter does a line starting from top left to bottom right. And you can do that to me. And if you use the caret, which is the shift 6, if you press shift 6 and then the letter E, it puts a little, well, in Frisian, they nickname it the house or the hat sometimes. The roof, they call it. So you put a roof on your characters. And I think there are some other variations, like to put the 2 dots there, you put colon and stuff like that. And so I had to learn all this stuff. And it's weird because they say that when you learn another language, you end up learning more about the culture of where that language is dominant. That's getting to be a really weird concept. And it's never been a thing where people will be like, well, I want to learn English, I should learn about Britain. That never came with learning English at all. Nobody even thought about it, except for the Dutch, but that's a different thing. And so, but when an English primary speaker wants to learn, if I were to learn Hindi, for example, it's a really wildly popular language with a lot of people. If I wanted to learn that language, I probably have media from India, for example. And I would learn a little bit about the culture because I would understand how certain words are used and blah, blah, blah. And the same is true for all kinds of stuff. And that's obvious. Learning from language and learning a bit of culture, that's obvious. But it was never really obvious to me how learning, because I learn from writing, because it turns out I'm a writer at heart. I learned that about myself. So I learned from writing, from literacy. And it never really occurred to me to understand the technology problem, the international keyboard problem, as being a hindrance in actually learning a language, not just trying to communicate stuff, in actually reading in the first place. Because I have to be able to type the words that I'm seeing. I want to be able to take notes. I decided to be really old school and just bring a pen and paper. Because I wasn't in a good mood, I'm basically a week behind my studies, which is really awful because now I've got even more. Like, I should just not be playing video games, but of course, World of Warcraft has to have some major changes come out. So, like, I'm gonna have zero free time, and I've got a birthday party to go to. I think it's tomorrow or the day after, and I got plans tomorrow, and I'm like, oh, I have no time for any of this stuff. And but at least I can see more of my floor now, which means I have to vacuum. I just have no time. This is kind of awful. So when people ask me, "Well, you want to come out grocery shopping?" No, I think I'm just gonna like drink Pepsi and starve for a little while and just try to get this other stuff done because I really do want to be caught up with this podcast. That's important to me, and I really do need to do some other stuff. So when I was talking about the 80% time, 80/20, well, I don't really have the 20 anymore, not right now, but I have that time. I have the extra 20 to burn. I don't need to do my optimization right now. I can actually fill that with the extra responsibilities that have come up. Something came up in life, ate too much pasta, had the equivalent of an allergic reaction, and and I'm recovering.
I wouldn't really consider that as an allergic reaction.
Something happened, right? So I had a physical reaction and I had a brain reaction, right? It wasn't like the pasta hurt my feelings, so my mind changed. I got irritable, which is a brain thing for me. So like that's an illness essentially is what happens. So I'll go talk to a doctor and be like what is this? I've got all manner of doctors who I'm probably frustrating by not doing the exercise that I'm supposed to. I got a physiotherapist for my back that I probably should see. But yeah, so talk to my GP, my general. So you call it a family doctor. I'm so used to the technical terms. So GP is general practitioner. So it's like it's not an unspecialized doctor, but it's a person who practices unspecialized. So for example, you might have a family doctor who also has a secondary interest, like in dentistry or something like that. And that's really, really handy because sometimes you need good advice that's specialized and you just get lucky because your doctor's actually got a background in that other stuff. It's just that person's not an actual dentist, not practicing as a dentist, not working at a practice. They're just working as a family doctor. Probably because these days, you don't want to be a dentist these days. I knew a guy, he went to the dentist recently, and they made him, no joke, they made him swish with mouthwash for 3 minutes. He had like chipmunk cheeks, and they were really sore. And that's right perception of that being related to airborne water droplet transmission, right? So they were being safe. They're not.
I was at the dentist a few weeks ago, and the procedure was still normal, except they used mouthwash that had hydrogen peroxide, so you had a weird aftertaste for a while.
Hydrogen peroxide. That's strange. I've actually got a bottle of hydrogen peroxide. It's good for cleaning wounds, but
Either it was that or something else, but it just had a strange aftertaste for a while, and it wasn't fun.
Yeah. So it's one of these. It coats the inside of your everything. gives a little protection, but really, what needs to happen is you breathe in a disinfecting mist, but then you die. So that doesn't really work out. Like you die, then they work on you for a while you're not breathing, and then they resuscitate you. It's contemporary dentistry. We actually stop your heart for a while. Wait,
what?
I'm just trying to think of a dystopian dentistry. Somebody somewhere has to make like a webcomic with that of like of like how to deal with it, how to deal with, like bypassing a person's breath. You like give them a puncture their trachea so they're breathing out of that instead. You push that through a filter, and then you work with their mouth. You like cork their throat. You cork in their mouth, and then you work with their teeth while they're breathing someplace else.
I really didn't want that imagery.
Now I say that because there was a conference in the United States that a bunch of Canadian dentists came back from, and there were cases. From early on, there were some cases. So all of dentistry got locked down in this country while people were checked. Like not checked, but there were contact traces and there was an investigation. And all the dentists just shut down. I got a call from my dentist like, hey, we got this appointment at such and such a time. Like, it is suspended indefinitely. We'll give you a call. And they did give me a call. I'm like, hey, no, I can't, like, right now. Can we do it at the end of the month? They're like, no, November? Because they got this backlog, right? And that's good. That's good to hear. I don't want any of these services going out of business. I don't. Yeah, we're gonna problems, man. Yeah. So we get to learn what's actually essential and what isn't. And a dental cleaning, less essential depending on how much it costs. I've been really good to my teeth. It was a decision I made a long time ago. Turns out I have an amazing smile, and just one crooked tooth, but everything's doing great. And I've kept such good care of my teeth, kind of accidentally. I just brush right away, except for this podcast. Except for when I'm doing some other stuff. Well, I've gotten a bit bad, but so I don't. I had like 10 years between cleaning appointments, which is a lot of stress on the next person. And then I had another 10-year break before I got to this current. And now they're like, oh, we really need to see you twice a year. Like, that's, let's stay on top of this. They got to make money, right? So they're selling the service. And as long as I'm up to date, it doesn't cost a lot of money. Because I've had friends, they're Americans, who have dental bills that are pretty insane. And it's like, we're going to come up into an era where spare money for quote unquote silly things, for preventable things, or for whatever the heck is just financially out of reach. Or it's financially irresponsible for you to not brush your teeth, basically, in the long run. At any rate, I actually had a note saying I should talk about teeth, but I'm not sure what that was all about. I think it was just talking about dentistry. So let me correct that real quick. Clickety clack, and I can edit that out of post. That's awesome. I'm learning to not type while I'm talking because that has wrecked a lot of my stuff. Because I don't know how to repair that out of audio. I note it, and I keep it in the original, and that way, like, if I want to pay some professional one day, maybe the professional can clean it up. Future generations can deal with that stuff, and AI can probably figure it out one day when Skynet is trying to recreate what humanity used to be like and looks at my audio and goes, hey, well, I guess we'll just clean this up real quick. We'll get rid of the keyboard sounds because that's offensive. Like, back when humans used computers, it's just wrong. And they're doing their morally purging keyboard sounds from podcasts. Yeah. Anyhow, I want to go back to Amazon, my Amazon ordering experience. And I had talked about going from Amazon CA to Amazon.com and comparing prices and importing and shipping and stuff like that. And it's hard to keep that in mind, but I do know that when a seller participates in one of these online stores, they're actually essentially they're giving the service a cut. So Amazon is getting a cut. And if you've ever been a seller on eBay, which I have been, you can have an opening bid, and if you put up, well, at least it's been a long time, but so if you put up an opening bid, you actually give them money for the right to open with that larger bid. So this is why a lot of people have like their their friend put in the first bid just to pump it up. And if their friend wins, like you can shuffle some money around, but you don't actually do it in real life. Like you give it back in real life, kind of thing. But anyhow, Amazon costs money, and I know that. And when you compare prices, sometimes there's price guarantees and stuff. But when you compare prices, you'll actually look at the manufacturer's website. Might be about the same price, might be more, might be less. But how many people actually like walk through Amazon, just go explore, window shop, and then go find the manufacturer and see if they can buy it? Because it might even be hard to get contact information through Amazon. So you might have to research. And so I was poking around. So one of the things, it is now on my list to get a pair of crutches, just so I can hang a little bit and help my back, stretch my back. And they're expensive. Wow. Plus I need to make sure that they can hold my weight. So these there are these crutches that they're rated at 180 pounds. Like, aw, isn't that cute? It's for kids. And so you got to get something that's like rated for what's the next step up? Rated for 230 pounds. Like, that's not just like, that's cutting it a little too close. And it needs to be, and the next one up is 600 pounds. Like, okay, well, fine. And of course the price goes up considerably. So I've got, the maybe list on my wish list has got a pair of crutches, but I was looking at canes. So I actually have a cane just in case my back acts funny. I have a cane already so that I don't have to think about this in the future. And it's one of these fold up canes. It's a portable cane. And I like it. It's fine. I have tried it. Most people don't even know how to use a cane, which is how you can tell if that limping person is playing pretend and they're just carrying a cane because they want to carry a cane because they don't want to make it look too obvious, like they're carrying a baseball bat. So they've got a cane. You can tell if somebody's walking with a cane properly. So if you've got one weak leg, normally what you see on TV is, so if a person has a weak left leg, they would hold the cane in their left hand. And so they would have like more strength. They would kind of use the cane instead of that leg. That's actually wrong. The reverse is true. So you walk as though you have two left legs. So you have a cane in your right hand, you walk forward with your left, and you walk forward with the cane on your right. And now you have the balance of both, because the leg still works. It's just weak, or it's untrustworthy, which is a big thing with back issues. So it's inconsistent. It's a really strange experience to wonder if that leg will just give out with no notice, because that could happen if there are nerve problems and stuff like this. And so your right leg is the confident one. You have almost like crutches, is you're using your weak left leg, your cane, you're swinging your good right leg through, planting all your weight on your right leg, swinging your crutches forward, essentially. So swinging your cane and left leg forward, and you're walking kind of like that. And so I know this because I read the instructions. Like, okay, guys, it's a little piece of paper and it's maybe annoying and maybe poorly presented, but it came with my cane. I read it on purpose. Now I understand this rather critical thing. And I'm going and I'm reading reviews on all these other canes because I'm like, well, why don't I get like something that isn't so embarrassing, something that's fixed, something that's maybe stable, something that works in winter better, something that works on grass better, this kind of stuff. I want to understand the topic because I'm probably going to be stuck with one of these things for some time. And maybe when I get older, I'm going to need one for other reasons, right? Because you see old people with canes all the time. And so I wanted to research it ahead of time. I'll have it in my head. It might fall out of my head because I'll have better things to do, but it'll be back there somewhere and I'll have the research. Kind of, maybe I'll have notes or something done, bookmarks or wish listed items or whatever. So I looked into this. And I'm glad I did. And so I was talking about Amazon, talking about products, talking about buying on-site versus off-site and their profit. I actually found a company that does custom. They're not custom, but they do like really fancy magic wood with carved heads and stuff like that. And again with the simplicity thing, because I was talking about the signs and stuff like that. It's I don't like flashy stuff. And I don't want like, oh, this has a dragon's head on it. It's like, okay, no, this has a like a what would it be? It wouldn't be silver, so it would be, this has a polished nickel wolf's head. Like, no, I want it to be nice, be good looking, to be simple. I don't want it to be pink. I don't want it to be like some odd color metal. I want it to be like wood. I want it to be, decent. And I found a place that does really, really good work. And I decided to go look them up because they had a reference in their store page. And this is the thing. I'm pretty sure there's a policy that forbids a seller from talking about going to their website, about going to them outside of like the Amazon experience. And so this guy, this store was like selling it, and it was suggesting that there are more options. And I'm like, what options? Because there's no drop down box, there's no selections, I can't pick something else. I go to their product page, their store on Amazon, like their store page has everything, and I'm going through them, and I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, guys. Like, wait a second. And I go, ask a search engine. And I find that they've got like they got a really nice website. Poke through, great stuff. And the price is very significantly different. And first, it's in American dollars, so US dollars. And plus, I have to figure out what shipping is like. Plus, I'm dealing with what happens if I get hit with taxes and all this kind of stuff. So it was kind of like, but it's nice to know that I should be doing that, right? I can leverage Amazon's recommendations and even its wish listing concept, and you can add notes to products to give more information, and then put in links to to buy it. Like, I don't have to buy the pots and pans on Amazon. I can buy them from Starfrit or something like that directly. And so I'm thinking like that a little bit more, but then you're dealing with like maybe another account with another company, and you're dealing with some other channel. You're dealing with warranties a different way, with returns a different way, and the relationships get a little weird. This is why, for example, I'll buy all my computer stuff on Newegg well, in my case, .ca, for all my computer related things, because I like their warranty stuff. Just make sure you do log in. If you have an account, make sure you log in, because you can purchase things with a guest account, but they can't take the guest account and its order history and insert it into a regular account, which was, so I've got like a couple of hard drives, and I had to save like the special bookmarks for those accounts. I can't have them in my regular account. They're not searchable with my regular account. Wow, it was such a pain. Yeah, but I had a human help me out and tell me that this isn't a doable thing, which I hate. I don't like that at all, which stinks. Anyhow, last thing to talk about, because we're running out of time. So Minion. So here's the thing. What I have learned to do, because I talked about it, is I made a separate account, and I have it tied to my phone, and I have notifications tied to a piece of software that checks email for me. And I can use the email if I want to, or in my case, I'll like read it and stuff, and then I can go to my computer and I can like download it and do fancier stuff with it there. Because I don't want to I don't want to leave all my email on the web server out in the cloud somewhere. And I don't want to download it to my phone. I do want to download it into archives on my computer. So what I do is I have a special email that works like that for notifications on my phone, so I can have notifications. And I wonder if you want to do something similar, because I'd have to have hosting figured out. But what I could do is have email set up, and you could have like phone at or like YouTube at lucidindifference.com, and your YouTube account will be set up to that. And what you can do is you can also set the YouTube account to email you whenever there's like a new subscriber, if you want to know that stuff, or if there's ever a comment, which is probably valuable right now, so that you can be so you can actually be essentially texted with this mechanism, texted when somebody comments on a video somewhere. I think you being set up like this might be very valuable for you to get on top of stuff. I think it's weird because I've gone through videos just to, watch them one more time, and I will see people's comments that do need addressing or could benefit from a response, and you don't see them or don't react to them or don't care, or I don't know what's going on with your brain. So I'm wondering. So if you want, I can actually help you with something like that. That might work out well. So we're right about done. Minion, what is the one goal you want to accomplish between now and next show? Can you think of something?
That I want to accomplish? Do some general cleanup and then
What does that mean?
do some general cleanup and there's a few things I need to change on the Twitch side and on the Twitch page, and then a few things I need to make some changes on YouTube.
So you've got the playlist thing to also keep up on. What about looking into like changing the YouTube or changing like the Twitch icon, for example, and kind of cleaning that up? Because coming up soon, probably in a couple of weeks, I'm going to. No, okay. So first couple of weeks of next month, I will be done the final thing to prep this room, because I'm going to be curtaining off one section, and then I think I will have the ability to widen out my camera view and maybe improve it, and I now have the space to go and stand if I want to. But I mean, for next show, I could probably get my camera going again, but I would like to figure out that stuff, and that doing that kind of thing would attract attention in Twitch, because I think people respond well to faces. So that's definitely something that I want to look into. I mean, that's a big change. And in order to do that, in order to pursue that, Twitch needs to be ready. It needs to look good. You need to have like the additional buttons and widgets and doohickeys and stuff on the main Twitch channel. I maybe reference the website, or reference the YouTube channel, or whatever. So all that stuff. As soon as you do all that stuff, I will get the video stuff done. As soon as that's ready, we look into streaming something, or putting my face somewhere, or something. And like, I don't care if it's your click and fight tablet game type of thing, or if you're grinding in Destiny, or I would rather not be the dude that plays. I mean, unless I'm grinding. And part of that is you would need to, if we were to stream stuff, you need to be aware that your account information is tied to what you're streaming. And so that gets associated with this show. So you need to know what you're getting into. So I actually have a separate account under my name for the express purposes of streaming that limited number of things. Like I stream Okami, which is a PlayStation 2 game that got ported to, well, Steam/Windows, right? And so I actually have a separate account just for that. I actually pay double. And so I have a few games where I can stream them, I guess. So theoretically speaking, I can do it on my end. I would just have to figure out the OBS thing, and I don't know what I would provide to Discord. So lots and lots of stuff. So I expect big things out of Twitch, I guess. So can you do that by Sunday?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how's your sleep going? Well, that we have a minute. We have 1 minute left.
My sleep. So I'm passing out around 6 p.m. now.
Wow. That's and waking up
It went,
at
yeah, and waking up around the next day.
12, 1 kind of thing.
But I added one short nap, and sometime during the day.
Yeah. So napping is a sign of depression, and it will often wreck your sleeping schedule because what it does is it gives you just a little bit more energy, and you're already a night owl, and you'll push yourself, and you'll stay up later and later. And all you're going to do is you're going to go to bed at 6, and then go to bed at 7, then go to bed at 8, and then it's eventually going to be, oh, I go to bed at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Like at some point you need to like stop and fixate on a particular time of day, and then have an evening wind down routine where you stop playing games that make your brain work too hard. You like chill out or read a book. Read
Well, it had to
manga.
happen. I had to force myself to take a nap because all the game, I was essentially playing games the entire time, or at least take off the headset because that was really affecting my ears,
I'm
my
actually
hearing, so it just wrecked it.
I'm totally on board with that. Like I'm fevering right now. Like I'm thinking, well, maybe I do need to get fancy headphones. I might actually switch to Bluetooth or something like that. Just have my little buds hanging in. That would be a good idea. Maybe I'll write that down as an accomplishment. I will work on that. One sec. Okay, so I think for next show I will have Bluetooth, my Bluetooth headset set up, and I'll try to put out 2 shows. That's like 16 hours of work. Okay, so we're done. This was what I can't. Windows doesn't let me do the fancy stuff, so this is September 16th, 2020, episode 19. We're done. We're going to be back on Sunday. I will see anybody listening then.